to put this on for them, they feel like kings and queens. We've taken both boys and girls teams here from Liverpool, and it never grows old. Never grows old. And it just drives the quality of the sport up in New York. I mean, before your finish of your season is your state meet or your federation championship in New York. Now we're looking at, we have to be better if we want to compete and go and compete at the national level. We have to be better. So you either get better or you don't go. And so, that's what we do.
Frankly, it augmented the whole sport and elevated it to another level due to competitive people like to compete at the highest levels. And I think they're adding the regional, and then as a means of getting the nationals, just accelerated that.
I think that meets like Nike really give kids that do a sport that doesn't usually get a lot of attention. It's not associated with being cool. It gives them this recognition for what they do. I mean, cross country is one of the toughest sports you can actually train for. It requires just tremendous dedication and discipline, and these kids have it to get to this level, and they're being recognized for that, and it's pretty cool.
That's a great way to sum it up. It is just pretty cool to be here and surrounded by all these athletes, all these amenities, and a VIP effort. Hassan Mead already testing his mic to make sure it works, because he's going to sing us a little ditty here shortly. And his teammate Evan Jagger is here, and Chris Derrick, who has tried now to build into his contract at Nike that he will appear on this broadcast every year, because you do just a great job. But now we're going to turn you into the investigative, hard-hitting reporter that you get these athletes to cry about something from their childhood.
But yeah, if we bring up Foot Locker Midwest in the senior year, I think we can get them to cry. Yeah, no, you guys are never getting rid of me up here. So let's start with the question everyone wants to know. If we were to take fall of 2006, Evan and Hassan, and transport them to this race right here, what is the result? Not the girls' race, the boys' race.
It's a little muddy out there, so there's a good chance that Hassan could have taken me. Our senior year Foot Locker Regionals, it was pretty muddy, and I pretty much imploded and had a rough race, finished 15th, I think, and Hassan got the better of me that year. So it definitely would have been a good race, I think.
I think so, most definitely. But it's hard to say, any given day is anybody's. But that day I got the best of a few guys that I know around here. But if we run it back again, I think it'd be close. It'd be close, and yeah. I think the way that Evan does, or the way he, the discipline he came with it, I wouldn't count him out. But I appreciate him giving me the little edge,
From someone who observed that race from very far back, I would agree with that assessment. Evan, we were talking before that this is one of your favorite weekends of the year. I mean, I think I know why, but can you explain to everyone else out there why we enjoy this weekend so much?
Yeah, for us pro athletes that get to come in and hang out with the best high school runners in the country for 2-3 days, for 5-6 hours a day, it's just constant excitement. The energy level is up here 24/7, and part of it is because Nike does such a good job of putting this meet on and hyping it up for the kids, but I think the bigger part of that is they're just so excited to compete at the national event, compete with their best friends, their teammates, and just run their hearts out and compete for a national title and see how well they can run.
And while we'll continue this interview in a moment for the folks here at Glendevere, we're going to turn it back over to the PA announcer, Bob Akamian, for introductions of the boys team. That race coming up here shortly. Chris Derrick, you may continue.
I appreciate that, Paul. So Hassan, every year I realize just how famous you are in Minnesota. So we get Minnesota teams every year, and every year Hassan's got a crowd of guys around him. So would you say it's obviously Prince is #1 in Minnesota?
Yes.
And then
Randy Moss?
Jesse Ventura. Who's more famous, you or Jesse Ventura in Minnesota?
I would go with Jesse. But I'm somewhere probably the top 7. But but there's other few people in there. Ben Blankenship is, he got the long hair, so he's got a lot of fans out there. But I get my share of love from the Minnesota folks, and I appreciate Nike always bringing me up. Down in Eugene, Oregon, I come up. It's an easy drive for me, and like Evan was touching on earlier about the kids. We kind of get a little bit of flashback on when we were at their shoes, we over there hanging out with them But at one point, you catch yourself having you get a little feelings, that you get that little tighten up in your stomach. You're like, man, I remember when I was at their age, what it feels like, and seeing guys like, Matt Tegenkamp, Chris Zalewski, like Adam Gouger, those guys were kind of at the peak of their season when we were at Foot Locker. So, we just trying to help them, kind of put ourselves in their shoes. And what do we tell them? What we have someone tell us if we were to, reverse the situation. So it's a blast, and we always just trying to share our experience.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like my experience is pretty similar where, kids, they want to know the secret. They want to know what they got to do. And you just got to kind of let them know, like, hey, you guys are already great. Just keep being who you are, and great things can happen for you.
No question. Well, quickly, for both of you guys, next year is an odd year, right? We've been talking it all year about, World Championship going to be in October. So how are you guys approaching your kind of training at this point, and how are you trying to dial in a year that you may never see again?
Well, Evan and I were just talking about this with a few people earlier, and we're kind of in the same ballpark. We're both just coming off a long summer, and at the same time, you kind of have a little bit of, when you had that long summer, you have a little setbacks. And this year, we're both just getting going now, being like December now, almost. So if you can have any year where you start late, this is a perfect year because you want to be ready in October, which is odd to say, and so anytime we can push back, it's a good, but you just got to adjust. We're at a world-class level to the point where you train, but at the same time, you learn to adapt. So we just got to sit down with our coaching staff and figure out where we want to attack in the season, and then you go from there.
Yeah, kind of, we're getting a late start, unfortunately. You never want to miss time running, but it might be a blessing in disguise that we kind of get this chance to reset, start training, building up again. And I think you'll see most people probably try to delay their fitness for an extra couple months. They're not going to hit their peaks at the same time because then you're going to be toast by the time World Championships hit. So I think we'll race the full season, but we'll wait to hit our serious training maybe 1 or 2 months later in the year, and just kind of delay that 100% fitness until September, October, and really be ready to run our best at the very end of the season.
Well, looking forward to seeing how the season unfolds for you guys. Diamond League is a month later, National Championships a month later, and as we said, World Championships in Doha, where I guess if you guys both make it, and you both will, you'll be in charge of finding good places to eat.
Yeah. I got you.
Yeah.
Just call me.
Just follow him on social. You know exactly what I'm talking about. So Evan, Evan Jagger and Hassan Mead. We'll let them step aside. We'll take a look at the introductions that are continuing down at the finish line, as well as the boys' race is coming up shortly. And as we allow those two gentlemen to leave, we'll bring in our final guest of this, I guess the official term for it, Chris, would be a halftime segment of our Nike Cross Nationals, and a guy who, we just talked about it, Chris, that, it's going to be a different kind of year next year with some people starting their season late, and for some of those, it affords them an opportunity to maybe get some work done. And the guy who got some work done is Galen Rupp, who's still smiling. Great to see you. And we, chatted in the wake of your decision to shut down, and you got a boot on.
Yep.
I hear you got a couple of nice scars to show for what they found inside, and what did they find, and what did they do?
Yeah, well, it's just something that I was born with. It's called I think Haglund's deformity, and
Google is blowing up right now.
So I mean, I had some problems with my Achilles and the bone, and so they went and fixed that, shaved some of the bone off, but it went great, and it's I'm healing about as good as I could have hoped for right now. So I'm walking around great. I've been cross-training 2 days after I had it done, and been hitting that hard ever since, and using this time to just really enjoy being at home with my family, around the holidays, having a little more time, and doing a lot of other stuff to get better as an athlete, even though I can't run.
Yeah, and you just witnessed an Oregon squad take a girls title. You were part of, the Oregon high school scene, and there's been a lot made of, all these different regions of the country having very strong runners. What does it mean to you as a Oregonian to see Central Oregon take a girls title?
Oh, it's awesome. I mean, I think this is the first time an Oregon team has won here, if I'm not mistaken. So, it's great to see. They had an unbelievable year. They ran great at the state meet, obviously qualifying here, and they killed it today. So it's just, as an Oregonian, I'm super proud, to see them doing well, and really happy for them.
chance to interact with some of the athletes during the course of the week, and you've been part of these experiences before. I mean, do you appreciate what you, as all these pro athletes at Nike, have each and every day in terms of your access to facilities and stuff, and see it through the eyes of these kids who are coming in and are sort of blown away by what they get to experience?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is my favorite event to work every year. It's so cool. It's so refreshing, you know, to hang out with these kids and just see how excited they are. And, you know, I remember when they first started Border Clash, and, you know, I ran Border Clash as a high school kid and seeing all that stuff, and they really roll the red carpet out for these kids, and it's just such an unbelievable experience. And I know all the other professional athletes up here, I think I can speak for them, but they all enjoy this event so much. It's just a blast.
I asked Courtney and Colleen this question as well. What are some of the questions you get asked, and kind of the advice questions you get from kids, and what can you share with the viewers at home?
I mean, they ask me all sorts of stuff. You know, I love it.
What's the most interesting question you've gotten this week?
I don't know. You definitely get some interesting ones. But a lot of them just about training, dealing with nerves. And, you know, I think that what I always tell people is it's normal to be nervous. You know, I think everybody's nervous before races at any level. You know, I get nervous before everything, and it's just important to recognize that that's a normal feeling, and you know, really just kind of use that as positive energy. You know, once the gun goes off, it's just about executing and staying calm, and, you know, not freaking out. You know, and so that's the biggest thing, you know, I think I can tell them. They ask a lot about training and workouts and things they can do to get better. So it's great. These kids are so smart, and they really ask great questions, you know, that's going to hopefully help them get better as they go on.
Well, we hope your recovery goes well. You have no excuses around the house. You got to do stuff now because you can't use the workouts as an escape from your young family at home, and maybe get some studying in as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Keeping an eye on that as well. So Galen Rupp joining us here as we get set to introduce the boys squads, at least preview them, going through the regions as we did for the girls for Nike Cross Nationals 2018. As we thank Galen Rupp for joining us, we'll bring Rich Gonzalez back onto the set here momentarily as the boys going through their final levels of introductions. And you know, again, we hope that boys race does as much for the broadcast as that girls race did. I think it was just like you said, there were so many potential storylines. We got some of what we expected, and certainly with the Central Oregon win, maybe some of what we didn't expect.
I mean, I think everyone knew that Central Oregon, you know, was definitely a contending team. It's just, we kind of talked about it before the race. When you don't have a dominant team like Manlius, you can go through and you can try to do all the math you can on what's going to happen and who the true best team is. But that's why we have the race, is because there's no answer from the season, right? It's about seeing who shows up on the day, who brings their best effort, who can execute closest to how they've been executing all year long. Central Oregon was able to do that, and I think we're going to be set up for not just a compelling team race on the boys' side, but a really compelling individual race with lots of different contenders that I'm sure we'll talk about.
And that's what they're after there, the hardware that will be handed out over the course of the next little bit as we prepare to preview the boys' race. We talk about the strength of specific regions, and I think we have a graphic for you of the top appearances by region. Obviously, that New York 26 figure buoyed significantly by Manlius.
Yeah, it's very helpful when you have a team that wins, what, 12 times.
And that's, again, top three in the podium. So between Manlius and Kinetic, that's a huge chunk right there, the New York total. You see California, sometimes people say, well, they can't run in Portland. We see 13 podium appearances. The Southwest, that's been the dominant region in terms of explosive growth in recent years, and they're already up with 11 podium appearances, and the Midwest at 9.
So that's the team appearances on the podium by region. The individual podium, also a top three, and here's how it shakes out as the all-time individual champions by region. And this is where, you know, there's been a bit of parity among some of the regions. It's not easy to predict where that winner may come out of.
Yeah, definitely. And we saw in the early years, the Midwest had the strength individually. They remain a factor, but we've seen the development in the Southwest region. There's always been great runners in the Northwest, sometimes overshadowed nationally by the Midwest, but you see, again, the parity, and you see also the South right there. South, some of the top runners have had major problems at NXN, but you still have 4 individual titles from that region.
Well, New York and the Southeast both with one podium appearance on the individual side, but it is the Southeast region where we will begin our team previews here for Nike Cross Nationals 2018 on the boys' side, just as we did with the girls. Let's look at the teams that advanced out of their regional championships. And again, we go back to that rainy day down in the Southeast.
And we see Duval, our team from Florida. They're Florida 2A champions, led by state champion Charles Hicks. There he is crossing the tape here. An All-American last year. He was 9th at Nike Cross Nationals.
So Duvall, one of our qualifiers there, and we also bring Chris Derrick in to talk about the other potential contender out of the Southeast, and that's Purcellville.
Purcellville trying to become the first boys team to go back-to-back champions. They have the record low score from last year, all-time boys, 89 points, led by two really strong runners up front who were 2-3 at the region. That's Sam Afalder and Jacob Hunter. But even with those two guys who are really national class, they still only had a 28-second spread at the region. They're so deep. Their seventh runner ran 9:17 for 3,200 meters last year. I'm not sure we've seen the best performance that, putting it all together on one day for this team, but if they do, they could be an all-time team.
And let's hear from Jacob Hunter as he gets ready for this race.
We learned we really need to get out fast in the race. That's really important because first 400 meters could make or break your race. So got to get out fast and got to do it for the team and not yourself, because if you think of it as a team effort, you're going to perform better individually. So I think that helped us a lot last year and carried us to the title.
Jacob Hunter getting used to the limelight, just like his brother Drew did, and he will lead the fortunes of that team, again, trying to become the first boys team to defend their title. So we move from the Southeast now down to the South, where that big state of Texas looms large, and usually looming is a good solid squad or two out of that region to compete for a national title.
Yeah, no, definitely. And again, we see our footage here from that South region. It was Jarrett Kirk who ended up being our regional champion here. The Texas 6A state meet, it was Carroll and Flower Mound that were the teams battling out, but almost hidden, competing later on in the day that day, was Eastwood under worse conditions. So people look at the times and they figure Eastwood's not quite as strong, but it was adverse. And when they went head-to-head at the regional meet, it was Eastwood that was on top finishing. Now, Carroll was our #2 team. Carroll's no stranger to NXN. They've been here numerous times on both the boys and the girls side. And again, they were state team champions. Eastwood, very balanced squad. They don't have that great low stick. But again, they've kind of been in the shadow of the superpowers. The same old, respectfully, the same old from Texas, state of Texas. But Flower Mound, it was interesting. When they first started out 10 years ago, this program, they were put on what's called a watch list for NXN. They didn't know what that was. Explain to them, it's a team that's kind of in the hunt. Back then they said, you know what, let's make it a goal to try and get to NXN one day. And they've been slowly progressing. And now the dream, they've already ordered their state championship trophies with the big NXN logo on it. They're just stoked.
Yeah, it's amazing what this event has done to kind of create that incentive for those late season pursuits after your regional and state championships. So that was the South region. We go on now to the Heartland, where we have a couple of squads advancing to Portland on this day.
And one of them actually is not from Minnesota. Actually, it's from Wisconsin, Middleton. Caleb Easton leads that squad. They've had second year in a row they've actually made it here. So this is kind of like a bit of a surprise in a sense to have somebody bust up the hierarchy of the Minnesota teams, and they're hoping to go hopefully get a top 12 finish this weekend. Our regional champion, Mounds View, they are from Minnesota. They've been the class of the field down the stretch, so not much of a surprise here, but they've been showing a little bit better than we thought down the stretch.
So the Heartland will give us at least one more squad out of Minnesota for our viewers out of that region to cheer for. And as you said, the squad out of Wisconsin. So we move from the Heartland now to California. You know, we really don't get the sense of what they're going to bring until that last stretch where they come for the Cal State Finals, but a lot of good quality racing, and those championship meets gives us a lot to look forward to on the race course today.
Yeah, this was easily the deepest year California's had on the boys' side. It went 8 or 9 deep in terms of quality teams. The only question was who would be the 4 standing. And then the team that's fourth, La Costa, out of the San Diego region. Their makeup is they've got 3 great individuals up front, bit of a gap to 4 and 5. So people thought they might get exposed in the California merge, but they held together really, really well. The Stanford brothers, Caleb Neednoggle. The #2 team from California is Newbury Park. They were the Division II state champions, led by Nico Young. This is a phenomenal national class talent. I think today will be his coming out party. Stevenson Ranch, the #2 entry, close runner-up. They're easily their best race of the year at the California State Meet, runner-up in Division I.
The introduction of Newbury Park here, and there's a look at the roster for Stevenson Ranch.
And then Temecula was our regional champion. It's Great Oak during the high school season. Again, no stranger to NXN, and they took care of business. They've had problems. They're 2 men down. Their #2 man stress fracture. He's done. Their number 6 man out the door. But this is the deepest team in the country. They're covering it pretty well. Can they hold together? They've had 2 more kids that have been struggling a little bit of late, a little bit by their standards. So we'll see if they can put it all back together with the ones they do have here.
And Chris, your thoughts on Temecula?
Yeah, I think Temecula last year through 3 runners, we thought they were in contention for the win. They struggled at 4-5. One of those guys who struggled is Tyler Tickner, who's been one of their best runners this year. As Rich said, he struggled a little bit at the state meet. This is a big chance for redemption for them. I had dinner with them the other night, and I think they're hopefully feeling confident, hopefully feeling the vibe. You know, I'd be really pleased to just see them have their best race of the year, so we can really get a fair measure of them versus Percival versus Manlius.
And after a lovely dinner with Chris Derrick, Mr. Tickner was able to catch up with our cameras, and here's his commentary. Maybe not on the dinner, but on the race.
At the beginning of the year, we have a meeting with the top 16 guys, and we plan our season and our goals. And the first one is the national meet. We want to win that. And but we also have to focus on state as well as other meets, just so we can get here too as well. And so, you know, our season has been a great road. We're better than we thought we were going to be at the beginning of the year, and we just had a ton of people step up, and it really shows that we want it. This weekend, it's like no other. It's such a great experience for any cross-country runner, and I know it's a dream of many runners across the nation to get here, and it means the world to all of us. And you know, the race, whether it goes good or bad, it's an end to the season, and it kind of helps us reflect on everything and all the hardships we've gone through and all the ups and downs, and it's a great end to the season.
And it has been a long season, and they also dream in the Midwest of being the next Chris Derrick or someone like Chris Derrick, and we've got a couple of squads that'll put their best squads out on the course today.
Yeah, definitely. Our number 2 entry from the Midwest was Wheaton Warrenville South. They were the Illinois 3A champion statewide. They're a squad that really, I mean, I don't see them in the top 4 or 5 as far as teams for today. We've seen a lot of teams from the Midwest that handle these conditions really well. They're not ideal conditions. This is what they're used to in the Midwest, really are, and there's a lot of pride coming from that region. Our regional champion was Arlington, also of Illinois, led by Josh Methner. Really strong squad coming in. Again, I think they're not seen as one of the favorites, one of the main contenders. They come in well, very well prepared, so always trying to look and pull an upset, get in the top 3rd. And here's our interview with Josh Methner. You know, he's actually coming in 2nd here at the regional meet.
And so that is the region that we look to for potential, quality finishers. Some of those individuals may be in the mix for All-American honors, but this New York region, as it typically is for the girls, kind of intriguing. And I think it'll become even more intriguing because of what happened in the girls' race. Now the boys of Manlius, part of this 2 qualifying teams out of the New York region, is going to try to be the one to make the podium this year after Manlius girls finished 4th.
Yeah, in the New York region, obviously, there's several classes that compete at the state meet. We do see some interchange, but they finally bring them all together at the regional meet. The number 2 team was Burnt Hills. They're led by, they were the Class B champion in New York, led by the state individual champion, Tyler Berg. And our regional champion was Manlius. They're a team that should contend here. Phenomenal balance in their program. Got a couple of low sticks, very well coached. Know this course very, very well. They were the Class A champions in New York.
And Chris, is there something we saw what the girls did, now we can try to use that as motivation in real time?
I think so. I mean, I don't believe Manlius has ever left Portland without a trophy. And I know that Coach Bill Harris will certainly be harping on that. He's all about toughness and consistency and doing it for the team. This team, they're a little bit hard to figure out. They're a little inscrutable. Their New York State Championship was absolutely phenomenal. 17-second split. Regional, 44-second split. I mean, we just saw on the screen there, they went 3-4-5 at the regional. Very strong team. I expect them to go like the girls, get out hard, try to make a statement, and try to hang on to that top spot.
Let's hear from Bill Harris, who talked about the prospects for the boys taking home a trophy.
We don't focus on the emphasis on all-out pursuit of winning at any one time. What we focus on is trying to run a great team race. And every single bit of success we've ever had, whether it be an invitational, the state meet, the regionals, or nationals, with both teams, has always been that focus. Looking for things that we can improve upon every week, and there are some from the regional, because actually our boys, as well as we ran, we were a little bit off in a couple of spots, but I think we can improve upon that. there are no predictions as far as what the so-called soothsayers and experts say about who's going to finish where. I'll leave that to other people. We just like to run a great race together and see where the chips fall. Leave it at that.
So, Chris Derrick, you'd be the soothsayer, and Rich Gonzalez, obviously the expert here. And
I'm the more spiritual of the two of us.
As we work our way back to the West and the Northwest boys.
Yeah, Northwest region. It was kind of a bit open, actually, for the second spot. We were really unsure who would emerge here. It was definitely open, and ended up being Veradale out of Washington. We've seen the Washington teams really, really excel in that region. We've had individuals from Oregon, but team-wise has always been Washington. And on top, the #1 team, West Kennewick, they have been a real quiet rising power in recent years in the Northwest region. But those two squads, Veradale and West Kennewick, Kamiakin, are definitely ones that should feel right at home in this weather.
Yeah, we look at the rosters for both Veradale, and there is West Kennewick that rounds out the 3 squads out of the Northwest to qualify for Nike Cross Nationals in 2018. So Northwest is done. Northeast is next on the agenda. 2 squads advancing out of that region here in 2018.
Yeah, our 2 squads, first one is Warwick. They were the number 2 entry from the region. They were our Rhode Island champions. They had a very strong season finishing up. I think a lot of the teams figured that they might come, the top 2 qualifiers might be from New Jersey, but it was Warwick. A good battle also, LaSalle, Rhode Island, back and forth. I was wondering which one would prevail. LaSalle, some great front running, but it was Warwick in the end. And our regional champion, our Group A champion out of New Jersey, Lincroft, one of the teams that are basically here so many times here with success and contending for podium over the years, and a squad that maybe isn't as strong as some of their past ones, but they'll draw some of that history, a lot of tradition there, and they'll try and raise their game today.
Our 2 squads out of the Northeast region qualifying for the race today at Glendoveer. We go from the Northeast now to the Southwest. We've got squads coming out of that region each and every year that are among the best in the country, and no different here in 2018.
Denver is a team that basically, they were one of our at-large entries. We knew they'd be very strong coming in, but they had a secret weapon, Easton Allred. He's been ineligible during the season because he was a transfer. He was a late add. He was put in the regional meet, and they thought it'd be a big game changer. The team ran a little better, but not quite as strong as we thought, yet it was strong enough to get in that large berth. They are a very dangerous at-large team.
There's a look at the roster out of the Southwest for Denver Cross Country, and American Fork also in the mix this year.
Yeah, American Fork, we've seen them before here, like just a couple of years ago, almost ended up getting the top spot, finished 2nd nationally. Bit of a surprise for them to go ahead and be an auto qualifier this year. We know they have great tradition, and they answered the call well at the regional meet, so a small surprise, and they needed to do it because they weren't necessarily looking as a super strong at-large candidate, so they took care of that on their own.
And the other contender out of the Southwest region is Littleton.
Yeah, Littleton and Dakota Ridge during the season actually ran really well. They were the Colorado 5A champion, running very strong throughout. At midseason, we thought they might be a contender for the national title. We've seen some other teams really emerge. They'll try and fight their way back into that title picture.
Let's hear from Austin Van Sil from Littleton.
We kind of had a little bit of a rough start in our first meet. We were missing 2 guys, and then that guy right there was injured for the majority of the season and came back near the end, and but I don't think we let that get to us, and everyone else ran their hearts out and did exactly what they were supposed to do, and we had our most successful season that we've ever had and that we've had in 12 years, which is the last time we won the state title. So we won this year too, and then came into Southwest with motivation to get here, and so that's what we did.
As we come back to the set, we also welcome in the listeners here in venue at Glendoveer Country Club as we're getting ready for the final minutes and moments before the boys race gets underway. It will give us a chance to also have a second call for all the boys racers to report to the start line. We'll have a final call coming up here for you shortly. We've just previewed all the teams out of all the regions, and pretty much the biggest storyline, I think, just generally around NXN this year is the expansion of individual not applicants, but individual participants who've come. Maybe you, Rich, can just talk about the decision to do that, and as we get ready to introduce and prepare to look at these individual runners, it's afforded you some flexibility in getting the best kids to come here and compete.
Yeah, definitely. In the past years, there'd be a couple of higher end big names that wouldn't be at the meet. Most of the top talent was here. We're going to try and go ahead and bring those top few that were still outliers trying to get in the field. This movement, bringing in 5 national at-larges in each gender, has really yielded a lot of quality additions. This year we had 58 individual state champions, all-time record, and part of that was because of that move to invite those additional at-larges, and it's resulted also in clearly the best boys field in terms of quality depth that this event has ever had.
We have a champion from 2007 on the dais. We'll have a brand new champion in 2018, as Aiden Troutner, who won last year, is not here to defend his title like Caitlin Tui was last year. But as we look at the group, starting with Sam Offolder, there's plenty of potential in a race that's much harder to pick than the girls' race was.
Oh, definitely, without a doubt. And he has the double burden in the sense, not only of trying to go for those individual honors, but because they're in that team hunt, it's vital. He's going to be battling against a number of non-team runners around him. It's going to be to his benefit in a sense. That kind of talent's going to help hopefully pull him along, push him along to a much stronger performance, but he's carrying a double load again. That pressure also of performing a low stick for a team that's going to be vying for the title.
Coming out of Virginia, who's going to take his talents here to the Northwest as a collegian for the University of Washington. We talked to him and what his prospects were and his goals were for Nike Cross Nationals.
The first 2 miles, I was up with the front pack, and I couldn't even hear my own breathing. That's how loud it was. So that's definitely something that, like, I wouldn't say it really got me in shock, but it's something I was definitely practicing this year, where I go on my morning runs, I just blast music, so that way I can't hear my heart. I just have to learn how smooth my body runs. And so I think that was definitely something that I'm glad I got that experience. And I think that this year my mind's a lot sharper going into this race, and so I think that I know where I need to make the moves. I know how long I need to hold on to the pack, and then try and make a move for the wins.
Well, he'll have plenty of competition, including this guy out of the state of Massachusetts.
Yeah, Ryan Oosting, definitely. The Flying Dutchman. I see the reason I say that is, okay, 2 years ago he won the National Outdoor 5K title on the track. Last year he competed at the Euro Juniors for the Netherlands. He has dual citizenship, was a bronze medalist at the Euro Juniors at 5,000 meters. He does not have much of a resume in cross country. 2 years, his freshman and sophomore year, injury. Junior year, sickness. This is the first year he's having a full cross country season, and he's had a big breakthrough, as now he's a chance to be on the top step here at Glendoveer Golf Course.
When we showed the diversification of individual podium finishers out of the rest of the country, it just affords us to kind of move to the next region of the country to talk about our next favorite, and this one comes out of the state of Colorado.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean,
in the Northeast, we run a lot of tough courses. I know I've seen a lot of other guys run on like golf courses and like pretty much grass tracks. And in the Northeast, you get a lot of hills and like really rough terrain. So I think these Northeast guys are really like the strongest ones. You know, I also am very motivated to keep running and just don't quit. You know, I understand it always gets tough, but I just want to keep pushing because it's worth it at the end.
Cole Hawker, another individual who's gunning for at least an All-American honor, but would like to see the podium as well.
Cole reminds me a lot, actually, of Aiden Troutner from last year, in the sense that neither ran at a national meet, neither track or cross country as a junior, and the way they race, kind of sitting in their own rhythm, letting other people make moves, and big finish at the end. So it would not surprise me at all to see Cole at the top of the podium this year. But I don't think any of these guys are more than, you know, 20-25% favorites here. Really wide open race.
But that's the great thing about this race, is that everyone has to come in and be at their best, and we've got plenty of people who certainly have the potential to win along with Hawker. We have Drew Bosley, who comes out of the state of Wisconsin, and then our top returner from last year, Liam Anderson.
Yeah, as far as Drew Bosley out of Wisconsin, again, he's really had a nice improvement as far as his curve over the last year or so. He hasn't had quite as much competition as some of these other big names have had this year. He's handled what he needs to. In a sense, that can be a big benefit, though. You get here a little bit fresher than some of your rivals, and I know he's got very big goals to try and bring something back big for Wisconsin, heading to the University of Northern Arizona.
And how about Anderson?
At Liam Anderson, I think last year people didn't know who he was coming into the meet. He's handled very well in terms of very selective racing. He ended up finishing third. I think a lot of people say, who is this kid? And he has not had a lot of major races this year also. Masterful coaching. Do not be surprised if he comes across first on that line. He is more focused mentally than any kid I've seen in a very long time.
And just to prove that, let's hear from Mr. Anderson right now.
You know, I think third time around, I finally got everything down, and I'm really excited for Saturday. I think, you know, it's going to be a fast race. There's a lot of great guys out here this weekend. I think between, you know, racing these guys last year and during track season, as well as Nike Elite Camp this past summer, you know, I know them all pretty well, and I'm excited to see what happens.
Check in with Elliott Heat, who's at the start line.
We have
Well, it looks like we're having some issues with Elliott's mic. He just didn't want to work the second race, apparently, so he's like pretending that the microphone is not working. All right, final moments. We got about 3 minutes before the gun goes off. Take us through your thoughts and maybe your favorites on both the team and the individual side. Start with you, Rich.
Well, one of the names we didn't mention is Cole Sprout out of Colorado. He's been phenomenal. I think he is basically the guy to beat in terms of ability. Between his physical skills and the focus and the mental aspect that Liam Anderson brings in, those are my two favorites. But there are several individuals that will be very close behind. We have not seen a field with this much boys' talent on top in the history of NXN.
I think it's a fool's bet to try to pick the winner on the boys' side, but I'm a fool, so I'll take Cole Hocker. And I think in the team race I would favor Percival. I think they have the most talent, but it is far from a conclusion, you know, a settled conclusion at this point. I definitely think Manlius could challenge them, and even if we saw the best version of Temecula, I think they as well could be on the top step of the podium.
Well, we had Central Oregon take the girls' title just about an hour ago, still celebrating that victory. We had Manlius finish 4th in the girls' race, and as was mentioned by Chris, we can't think of many years, if not any year, where Manlius hasn't gone home with at least a trophy. So we'll see what the boys can do, and I'm sure Bill Harris has given the quiet, confident talk to the boys team about what opportunity lies ahead for them as well. We have just a few moments here to go to the start line and take it all in. You know, the nerves stay consistent, whether you're in the girls' race or the boys' race, but is there any advantage for these boys having seen the girls go through the race and it's the meet's now underway, right?
Honestly, I think those guys they're all in their own world. While the girls are racing, they're going to be doing their warm-up. They're going to be focusing on their own thing. If anything, when you kind of hear that, you hear the award ceremony, it almost makes you more nervous because you think they're on the other side of the race where I want to be. They're on the podium. They've already done what needs to be done. So in that situation, I would generally try to just stay in your own world. Just think about your own race. Don't acknowledge that anything else is happening anywhere else. You know, keep your world really small. Focus on the next few moments.
Well, working our way down the boxes here as the 204 athletes, same numbers we saw on the girls. Again, a reflection of the largest number of entries in NXN history here in 2018. It has now come down to this on the first day of December. It's the final race of the year, Nike Cross National Boys Championship Final. And the boys' race is underway here at Glendevere Golf Club in Portland, NXN 2018. Can you grab this? Yep. Just a wonderful wide shot picture here on this opening stretch of the race course on this golf course. Perhaps one of the flattest parts of the race, as they will definitely see the undulations here shortly in this early part of the race. And again, what we will not see in this boys race, I suspect, is anything close to what we saw in that first stage of the girls race, where we have one athlete, in the girls case Caitlin Toohey, that went out to the front. But a very strong surge as all of the favorites trying to get in position early on, and the rest of the teams beginning to lock into their roles as the team race obviously up for grabs for those squads, and every place finishes matter from 1 to 5.
Looks like Carter Cheeseman from Texas might be our early leader there in the light blue. This field, again, just like the girls, there's so much talent. There are 27 individual state champions in the race, and also 12 state team champions in the field.
Now, the South region was kind of like the SEC this year, just everyone beating up on everyone else. I think it actually gives us kind of a hard time trying to figure out who really is the top dog in that region, and who's going to be a contender for the win, because those guys switch back and forth all throughout the year.
So, Rich, is that Edwin Gomez out in front? I think it's 2:30. Indeed, it is. So yes. The sophomore.
I believe he was 3rd at the region, if I'm not mistaken.
A little bit of a bold move here early on, and you know, I suppose you know, as part of race tactics, if you're feeling good on a given day, you know, potentially put yourself out there and try to create some space. And just as I tried not to predict that the early part of the boys' race would look anything like the girls, this looks a lot like what Tui did early on in the girls' race.
Well, one of the interesting things that can happen in a race like this, which I don't think you would have seen in years past, you know, maybe 10, 15 years ago, is all these guys know each other so well. And they know kind of who they're looking for and who they're going to be competing against. And I don't think a lot of them would have counted Gomez in.
Right.
And so I think we'll see if they reel him back in here. But you could almost see a point where they think, oh, well, he's not a contender. Let's look at each other. And they give him a little more gap than maybe they should.
And you can see his arm carriage definitely dropping here as the field begins to be swallowed and bring a reel back in. And you can just see the massive humanity right there. It's just amazing. Coming up at 1K, and you see there's got to be at least 120 kids within about maybe 6 seconds of the lead.
Now, Jacob Hunter told us you can make or break your race in your first 400 meters. I'm not sure I agree with him. As you look at that field, I mean, from first to last, what is it, 10-second split? So you can make up a lot of ground if you can find a little room. Over the course of this race.
And that's Nick Foster in second from Michigan, Lower Peninsula Division I champion. He's signed for the University of Michigan. 4:05 on the track for the full mile. He's right there among the leaders.
And on the inside there, you had Liam Anderson in the pink, Drew Bosley in the orange, and then Cole Hawker in the yellow. 3 of our favorites up front early.
Everyone looking for position to run on the race course. Alongside them, following them along, is our Elliott Heath. Elliott?
Yeah, well, you can tell even from the get-go here that it's going to be a different race makeup relative to the girls. The guys have packed up very tightly, super dense through probably the first 60, 70 spots. It's just a mass of runners. No one running out front, and now we're going 8 wide. Everyone just looking left and right, queuing off each other. No one really looking to put a move out front.
See Cole Sprout being identified in that group. So the early race leader has now come back to the field, Gomez, but staying in that pack in a strong field of runners here with no one really wanting to take control. So it's now just all about sort of spacing.
I'm not sure this is tactical in the sense of being slow, but the race is definitely still searching for a leader who's going to take control. We can see 3 Californians up there. Nico Young, who Rich pointed out to us earlier, he's right up front. And then is that Matt Strangio on the far side there?
That is Matt Strangio on the far right in the pink top.
And Liam Anderson up there as well, the top finisher from last year to return for 2018, the 3rd place finisher, so trying to make his 2nd straight podium as well.
Now, we've seen this over and over again in the boys' race. When you don't have a dominant figure, the race really doesn't start to develop until about 1.5 miles when you get to the low point on the course. Because after that first K, it's pretty much all gradual downhill. Then you're going to go down a big hill, up a big hill, down, and then when you come up that big hill again, you're getting 1.5 miles in, everyone's starting to feel it, and then the course starts to work against you, and that's when the strength really tells.
Joe Wascom of the Northwest also among that grouping, wearing the Northwest green singlet. As he made a strong move, was the 4A state meet winner this year and a seasonal best 15:16. And you talked about that hill coming down. So again, that group still fairly tight, but you can start now. That perspective, that camera shot shows there's a little bit of decompression going on amongst that large group of runners, and some of those folks still having trouble with their footing here. It's been relatively dry since some early morning rain, and so the course is holding up in very nice condition.
And we saw a succession of kind of dark pink jerseys, which I believe are the Temecula boys. Looked like they were packing pretty well, and in the early scores we're getting, it looks like they indeed got out pretty decently.
Yeah, but on top right now, through that first mile split, it is Littleton of Colorado. That's currently your leader at 2:28. Our defending champions, Purcellville from Virginia, in second at 2:64. Temecula of California, third at 3:06. Wheaton South, Illinois, fourth, 3:72. And Manlius, 3:81 in fifth.
Now, Littleton, I don't know if we talked in detail about them before the race, but they have 2 really good guys up front. And again, with the raw scores, that could be helping them a little bit. The question for them, it looks like probably their 5th guy got out pretty darn well if they're only at 2:28. can he hold it throughout this race?
I did confirm in between races with our chief timer, Sean Laughlin. These actually are not raw scores. These are actually team scores right here. So the reason we see these high numbers is just that massive humanity right now is just. But these are actual team scores with the individuals already pulled out.
So Littleton had it's their 3 through 5 we felt probably held them back from being a real contender. They've gotten that well. Do they have the strength to hold it through the second tough part of this course?
4:43 was the split through the first mile for Strangio, Anderson, and Foster. Let's go back to the man running right alongside or riding alongside the runners, Elliott Heath.
Yeah, we're looking at very, very heavily dominated by the individuals up front, but you guys were talking about the team from Littleton. You see teammates 1-2 side by side there. Low sticks for them, but then also I can see their 3-4 in pretty good position, probably in the top 70 overall. So I think they're in good position, but no sign of a 5. But they're the only team that I think you could say has a very good presence towards the front of the race. Otherwise, we've got back and forth, a wall of individuals leading the way in the front of the race.
We also saw up front there, that was Josh Methner, the Illinois state champion, only a junior, and he's running actually for his team, Arlington, known as Hersey during the season. We still haven't really seen the race break open yet, and this is generally where we do. Up this steep hill again, but I don't know, we're still, what, 10 wide here?
Yep, definitely. And we see, like I said, most of the big names in front. Also, we see a couple of individuals that were national at-large invitees that are in the mix. We see Nick Foster of Michigan there, Jack Stanley of New Jersey, also among the leaders there.
We got Sam Auffolder of Purcellville here. It was interesting at the regional meet. I mean, he had finished pretty far ahead of Jacob Hunter, their number 2 guy, kind of in their previous races, but he ran with Hunter at the regional meet, and I was curious to know whether that was him holding back, saving himself for here, or if Hunter had really stepped up, and it looks like Auffolder is really separated from Hunter, and he's going with the big dogs here.
Drew Bosley in that hip bib number 218 now trying to make a little bit of a surge. You were saying, Chris, in that stretch they were all alongside. Now they begin to thin out and start to go maybe 2 aside as they'll make some turns here to the next stage of the race. We're well into the last third of the racing here at Glendoveer for a NXN title in 2018. And that team title up for grabs as well. We'll have some updates here on the standings and the second mile split here shortly.
And that's Nico Young in the all-black junior from Newbury Park in California. And they were as national news in the last couple of weeks, all the fires in California. They started right there in Newbury Park, so they were actually affected by those conditions for a couple of weeks. They actually had to leave the area to find training elsewhere. You see Cole Sprout right there, our pre-race co-favorite, as well as Drew Bosley, Liam Anderson. So right there, all the big names. Easton Allred right there, currently the middle of your screen from Denver, 299, also about 3rd or 4th at this point in time.
The deeper we get into this race with all these guys around, the more it's going to test them mentally. We saw last year we had 3 guys up front attacking each other, and it was the guy who didn't attack, who saved himself for the last 400 meters, Aiden Troutner, who won the race. So how many of these guys who've been dreaming of this moment since last year, their time to take the title, are going to get maybe a little too anxious, make a move where they should save it for the end? Because as my old teammate Haken DeVries used to say, good guys take a long time to die.
Nico Young had the official first place position after the 2 mile split in 9:44. Behind him, Sprout, Bosley, then Anderson, the top finisher from a year ago, and Allred rounding out the top 5. Osting out of Massachusetts, who had been again among the favorites, was in that 6th position, still in that pack.
But you can see right there, our 2 mile split, our top 8 are all within 1 second.
And boding well for the Northwest squad, E.J. Holland, who's had a great tear of the last month or so in the Oregon State Championship out of the Ashland area, then won the border clash in that battle between Oregon and Washington. He's the tall figure in the green on the left side of picture, trying to keep the legs running there as they start to hit some of the hills again.
Yeah,
we haven't said his name all broadcast long, but no one has beaten him this year, and he may make us live to regret that decision to not feature him in the pre-race, because he's up there in contention.
Now, definitely coming into the postseason, looking at from our committee, looking at invitations and so forth, and one thing that kept popping up also, just overall strength, was Evan Holland. He'd had no major victories, but looking at the data, just a very, very strong resume.
So there you see Holland there, and we'll work our way back up to the front. Quickly check in again with Elliott Heath.
This is starting to play out now. We've got some moves, serious moves being made. We got 3 wide here with two team members and 1 individual. Also in the top pack, let's see, we've got a Newbury Park team, Denver's #1, and then Littleton still with 2 individuals, probably scoring in the top 10 for the team scoring. Still got Cole Hawker hanging on Chris's pick there of someone that might, just respond to moves, and if he's there, he might have a chance to close well. But we've got it really starting to string out here on the front.
Easton Allred from Denver, he's made the first decisive bid in this race. He's really made the race happen here in the last 2 minutes. I would still say, I still wouldn't count out Cole Hawker there in 5th, but I really would like it in this position, Liam Anderson, who showed us last year at this race that he can save a really strong finish for the last 400 meters when he moved from 5th into 3rd.
Anderson now in that 3rd position, twice the California D3 champion, the Stanford commit, maybe just kind of lying in wait here as they pass the 13-minute mark, working their way down to the southernmost point of the race course, working their way back towards the finish line.
So we mentioned the fact that Easton Allred, your current leader, how he was ineligible for his high school team because he transferred this year, but now in postseason he's eligible to go ahead and run for his club squad. At the Libertyville Invitational, a big meet locally in the neck of the woods, Cole Sprout, probably the best runner in the country coming into the season, he won that race at the varsity level. Easton Allred ran a faster time from a non-varsity race. That's what people said, who is this kid? Well, right here he's basically showing he's got definitely plenty in him. We have Anderson, Sprout, and Allred. Now
Allred has to regather himself. He made that big commitment to make the move. He kind of probably felt like he was really making inroads, and now he's being challenged because at this level you always have to have more than one move to make.
Nico Young in that 4th position, potentially hoping that one of those 3 in front of him fall back a little bit, so he has an opportunity for a podium finish. Now coming into the last stages and the last climb of this NXN Championship for 2018. And will we see another move by Cole Sprout? He's testing Anderson on his right shoulder as here they come up the final 2 hills.
2 of our favorites coming into the race, 2 guys we both know have great finishes. It's hard to pick between them at this point.
And look at Anderson surge up that hill, and Sprout trying to respond. As they now come into the visibility of the final stretch of the race course, they'll come down the tunnel.
These were the pick 2 coming in. They've not disappointed. Sprout trying to hold on here, keep his spot, at least currently in 2nd. That's Hawker in 3rd, moving up quickly.
And our top returning finisher from last year, finishing 3rd in 2017, will be the NXN champion in 2018, Liam Anderson. Cole Hawker with a strong finish there in 2nd position. And Sprout will finish in 3rd. That's our podium here in 2018. And now here comes the race to the finish for the rest. And for that team race and an NXN crown.
Hawker really hawked down 2nd place there. I mean, that's kind of what we've seen from him all year long, that he's someone who kind of waits for that final straightaway. But Liam Anderson, he was able to have that great final straightaway while still pushing for McKay out, and that truly is a sign of a great champion.
Well, and again, another case where that experience from a year ago has to have helped him in preparing for that last stretch. And the gear he found on that first of 2 rises up those last 2 hills was all the difference he needed to get ahead.
And he really ran over the top of that steep section there, which is the key. It's not just how fast you run that 5 meters, it's how fast can you come out of it to run the next.
Sustain that speed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You hear so many coaches talk about, in a sense, pointing toward the end of the season. I kid you not. I have not seen a coach in all my years in the sport that has a better focus on their athletes on just de-emphasizing anything, including state really to some degree. It was all about Liam Anderson. It was all about nationals and winning nationals. That's what their whole focus was from day one.
As we look at the teams coming through, I noticed that Percival, there was a guy in between Offolder and Hunter for their team. Offolder was a bit back of where we expected. So that either means they had a great day, they had their 3-4 step up to run with their 1-2, or their 1-2 were off, and they'll be a little bit worse than expected. So we'll wait with great anticipation for those team scores, because I think it's going to be a really tight and competitive battle.
Those team scores will be held and revealed as we welcome the top 3 teams to the podium here shortly after the presentation of awards for the top 3 finishers here at NXN 2018. Liam Anderson will pick up the hardware for the 2nd straight year. The trophy will be a little bit bigger in 2018 as he will take the NXN crown. American Fork group regrouping, and you know, this again, this whole finish on empty is just a great reflection of what these athletes are going through here in this final moments. But Liam Anderson looks very happy and satisfied on a great run around this race course at Glen de Vere. He will be our NXN champion, and we'll hear from him shortly.
It's